Hey everybody, this is the band arranging workshop. So if you're here for stand-up comedy, you're in the wrong place. Get out of here, kid. Okay, well let's just get a rough sense of who's in the room. How many bass players are in the room? That's a fair sprinkling. 3. Like your first choice is bass. All the time, yeah. Oh man, you bona fide. All right, drummers? Not a soul. Oh, there's a soul. Early days. Not super keen to claim it. I didn't see you weren't like, yeah. Okay. But that still counts. Electric guitarists? Wait, hands up high. I know you guys are normally shy. Wow. Yeah, right. Any ladies play electric guitar? No. Just Maddie Cunningham. Bob likes that. What about keyboards? Yeah. All right. That's a good showing. What about acoustic guitar? Oh, man, the majority. All right. We can do this. And worship leaders? Any worship?
Whoa.
Wow. That's a fair representation.
I think
How many? What?
He put his hand up for every instrument.
Did he really?
He's a beast.
That's good. He's a beast. Ah, there you go. He's got a trade. That's where we went wrong.
That's what I should have got.
Yeah, totally. That's where we went wrong. Bagpipes? Yes. That means I can tell some bagpipe jokes. Yeah. What's the difference between a bagpipe and a trampoline? You take your shoes off when you jump on a trampoline. Oh, somebody liked it. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, what's the difference between bagpipes and an onion? And an onion. Nobody cries when you chop up the bagpipes. Okay, I could do this all day. Yeah, don't encourage me. Yeah. What's the difference between roadkill and bagpipes? Often there's skid marks just before roadkill. Yeah. So dumb. All right, last one, I promise. One time I went into a grocery store, and while I was shopping, I was like, oh my gosh, I left the bagpipes in the car with the window open, and I raced out there, but I was too late. Someone had already thrown another set of bagpipes in there. There you go. Hey, we'll be here all week. Any instruments that I haven't included? Harmonica? Vocals. There you go. Oh, man. It's good. Wow, you guys. I should have learned a trade. These guys can actually play music. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to interview them because they know what they're doing. And then, as I'm going to ask some questions. And if you have a burning question for each of the instruments or any of the instruments, just go, listen, man, the only reason I came here today was to hear the answer to this question. We will take that question. But I'm going to start with the bass. And the question is, it's Mr. Daniel Ornelas. We've been playing music together for a long time. Started with jazz. Then he joined a band called Tree 63 and rocked pretty hard, came to America. And fortunately for me, he stayed and he played bass in this band. He leads a band called Worship Republic, and he has a channel online called Bass with Worship Artistry.
Yeah, Worship Artistry. Anybody know about Worship Artistry? Yeah,
there you go. There you go. Musician by trade. So, okay, I'll just get us started. Like my niece, Caroline, wants to be in a band, and she's picked the bass. She likes worship. Any, just opening thoughts for her as she embarks on her journey of music?
Sure. So, obviously, bass guitar is an instrument that is part of the rhythm section. And a lot of people that go from electric guitar to bass, they know their way around the neck. So that it's very easy to move around. Whereas I would rather teach a drummer how to play bass than an electric guitarist how to play bass, because the drummer is coming at it from the drum side. And a lot of people don't realize that the groove on the bass with what's happening between the drums and the bass is probably it's more important than really the melody of the riffs or the other little things that you can play on the bass. So I'd say Gwyneth was her name. What was her name?
Caroline.
Caroline. Sorry.
Yeah.
Caroline. I'm just bad at
Gwyneth.
names. Apologize. Plymouth. Plymouth. There we go.
Name that tune.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
So I would say keep it simple. And I've been to some churches where like the worship band's playing before us, and there's someone up there playing bass, and it's like some kid, and they're really doing an awesome job. And I say, wow, they're really holding it down. They're playing all the right notes. And then you come back like 6 years later, and they just, and I'm like, oh man, what a mess. What happened? No, when you saw me playing, I'd only been playing for a week. And I was like, so she was just holding down the notes. Oh, Lord, Lord, I lift your name on. Oh, what's the next one? High, Lord. Oh, there's C. Oh, yeah, there's a G. Lord, I love to sing your praises. And then eventually you start going, Lord, lift your name high. Lord. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. And then 10, 15 years later, after all the experience, you'll see the person come back and they'll be going, Lord, I lift your name on high. Because that's what's actually meant to be in the song, right? So keep it simple. If you're learning to play bass, you don't have to show off. You don't have to impress anybody. Just play the root notes. And once you're really comfortable playing those, then you can venture out a little bit. But don't feel under pressure that you have to play more than just hold down the bass, because then all the other instruments get a chance to shine as well. Is that good for you, Melody?
Caroline.
Caroline?
Caroline, Melody, Gwyneth. Yeah, my three favorite names. Yeah, that's good. Any questions for Dan?
5-string or 4-string?
I'm a 4-string guy. I know that there's a lot of songs that we teach on worship artistry where I play 5.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Do your parents know? He's quite keen on 4 strings.
I do love 4-string because most of my favorite bands play 4-string bass, like Coldplay and all those guys. But there's definitely times for both, and I do love having the low notes sometimes. Often songs are in E flat, and then you either have to tune your whole bass down to play in E flat, or I used to have a hip shot on my bass, which is a little thing that actually makes the top string go down to from E down to D, which will allow you to actually play. But then it's quite tricky because you got to remember that string now is 2 frets lower. I mean, it's a lower string. So I do love 5-string in the right context, but for my kind of music that we play, I like playing 4-string.
It's a fair question.
Good question, though. What about you? 5? That's awesome.
Shredder.
You 5? Oh, I feel
No,
like
no kidding.
I'm so alone. Okay, you've got both? Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, while you're thinking of questions, Daniel, why don't you give us a little name that tune?
Okay.
Wow. Instant.
Yeah. That's good.
Man, Queen is here today for some reason.
Okay. What about this one?
I don't understand. Yeah, Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Reckless Love, you're not into that. You're like, that's Michael Jackson. Yeah. It's more. You are into it, you're just feeling. Like, enough of that. All right. Very good. CJ, how are you doing? Maybe you can start us off with a few name that tunes, and then we can talk about keyboards. What you got in there? What is it? What? Wow,
Up
you
a
got it.
tree.
That was amazing. Less than a second. Where were you guys? Just kidding. I had no idea what that was. Yeah. Got another one? Yeah, it's playing all the hits.
Strong work.
Yeah, man. It's a classic. Yeah, Bob, where were you in that one? All right, same question for my niece Gwyneth. CJ, just starting out in a worship band. Yeah, we better get that mic to you, I guess.
See, Matt doesn't trust me with a mic, so
This is one way to get the keyboardist just to play with one hand.
chaperones.
You make them sing backing vocals, but they have to hold their mic. No? Sorry. I thought this was good.
I have a really funny short story. The first real session I ever did, I was 24. It was in Austin. I was playing for this artist who found a billionaire to finance her album. And anyway, the band that they hired, I thought I was like the stuff. You know, I knew all my theory and I could tell the band, you know, all the things. And well, so the band comes in and they're like in shorts and flip-flops and like I'm kind of dressed up and I got my keyboard set up in the control room. And this bass player dude, he literally played the entire session laying on a couch 90 degrees from me with his bass like this. And he kept telling me, hey, brother, don't play under C3. It's right there. Don't play under that. That's my area. And finally, after like 3 songs, he took a yardstick and he slapped my hand.
No kidding.
So
From
I
the sofa.
sat on my hand the rest of the day until lunch. We cut like 7 songs in 4 hours. Turns out it was George Strait's band. So I shut up and didn't say another word. So
Wow.
in answer to your question, I think my first answer to people who are looking to learn how to do worship is learn scales, scale degrees, and how they relate to numbers. Numbers are your friend. Because if you learn numbers and how those all relate, when band folks are like 1, 6, 5, 4, 7, flat 2, whatever, then you have some reference as to what that is. But then it doesn't really matter what key a song is in. If you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a 1, 4, 5, or 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, or 1, 2, 7, 4, whatever it is. When you learn those, you hear those patterns. That's the fast, because worship is not hard, guys. I did not start practicing for this until Monday. When I finally got some set lists, I started practicing, and
These guys.
man. No, anyway, so, worship music is not difficult. There's some parts like that tune we did this morning, Make Room, that there's an intentional piano part you have to learn. But after that, it's just like 1, 5, 2, So that's probably my first answer, is if you learn that, and it will take a while. It'll take a while to tune your ear, but once you do that, the rest becomes a lot easier.
How many of you lead worship on the keys? Man, massive respect.
That's a hard job.
You got to smack all those other instrumentalists and still use both hands.
And it's really hard when you're the only instrument.
Respect.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier on the guitar because I used to play the guitar, and then we had people come in on the guitar, and then I got used to the keyboards. It can be done. You're right.
Yeah.
Man, respect. Respect. Any other questions for the keyboard? Where do you find your joy in this music? I mean, obviously you're engaging with God, but on the musical side.
That's I think after being a servant to God, right, and doing this, and that's one thing I really value about this church, frankly, is I came from a church that it wasn't like it was not servant, but everyone on the team was a pro musician, and we were gigging all the time. It was a great bunch of folks from a musician perspective. They all had great hearts. When I came here, it was a different mindset, and it was really more about serving not just the music, but the team and, of course, the congregation, even outside of music. So that's probably what I enjoy, because I'm a people collector. And so being able to connect with people and geek out about keyboards, and I can't tell you about anything else up here. I think this is an E, I'm pretty sure, but
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, CJ.
certainly.
Yeah. Very good.
Strong.
All right, Aaron, you next. Give us some Name That tunes if you can. This is Aaron Blanton. CJ I only met on text. Well, I mean, we've met in person many years ago, but we really only met on text after he got the set list from me. So he's a very kind man, actually, because he's herding cats for this conference. And I was just like, man, we need a keyboardist for Make Room. would you learn? And he said yes. A very gracious dude. Yeah.
Strong man.
Yeah, very strong. So Aaron was plucked out of high school as a drum prodigy to play for Sonic Flood. Yeah, oh. Yeah, that's the response I was hoping for, yeah. It's pretty cool, man. And he's very confident as a drummer and all the other instruments as well. So that's how I started. His name's Aaron Blanton, father of 3, lives in Franklin, Tennessee. And he was he was in a band called By the Tree, and he led that band for a while. By the Tree, my wife's favorite band. All right, yeah, true. Give us some name that tunes, Aaron, before we dive in. Oh my God, so good. What is it?
Yes, strong. Who said that?
Who said it? Very good. The drummer.
He
Yeah,
won.
man. Dude, nailing it. All right. Yeah, give us like 3 in a row. Very good. Strong. Man, you coming alive, bro. If I ask you as a drummer, by the end, you're going to be like, me, I'm a freak. Yeah. All right, give us one more. Man, that was nice.
Sounds good.
Heroes. Yeah. Nothing else?
Oh, I mean, you can do this one.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's good. My man. That's good. All roads lead to it. All right, Aaron. I guess we need to get you a microphone. I'm going
I got it.
So Aaron has led worship for many years. If you've got like proper probing questions, he's the guy to ask. I'm just saying. He's got his worship IQ is very high. But tell us, Aaron, like when you go into a worship situation as a drummer, like what are you paying attention to? What's important to you?
The first thing that I'd like to know is the venue, the place. Because I think drums are it's so easy to overtake everything that's going on. And if you aren't keen and aware of the size of the room, like what sticks you need to bring, should this be brushes or hot rods? And I would say the next thing after that is like be okay with not playing with sticks, because every drummer loves to play with sticks. Maybe jazz guys would disagree, but most jazz guys are going to play with sticks and brushes too. But I always bring stuff that I know I can adjust to the room. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just to really know the songs as well as you can. Sometimes you're in a situation where it's, I didn't have time to learn it, or didn't have time to listen to it. But in the moments where you can rehearse and really show up knowing the songs, this is for any instrument, right? But because, all the practice, it makes sure that you can let go once you get into the environment. And that's so important that you're really playing from here instead of here. I'd say those are the 2 things I pay attention to, probably first.
So you spend a lot of time learning the song. You make sure you learn the song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I learn the songs. And also, I think when you learn, if you're learning like songs that you need to play on a Sunday morning, that oftentimes, maybe not have to learn it just like the album. Sometimes you'll get in a situation where you really need to know just like the player, but depending on your proficiency, you may not be able to do that really well. So take the leeway of simplifying and doing what you can do so that you can keep the train moving. Drums are super important to what's going on. And if drums fall apart because you're overcomplicated parts that you can't really replicate, then simplify it so that you can keep the train moving, so that you can stay in a groove, stay on pattern. I might also add practice with a metronome. Any instrument, you really need to be practicing with a click. Anytime you've got your instrument on, you're sitting down behind drums or piano or anything, have metronome going. You'll be able to internalize what does 140 feel like, what does 75 feel like, what does 90 feel like, and that'll help you as you gain experience, playing in live situations.
What's one thing you wish every worship leader knew about the drums? You guys can think of questions too, but I'm curious.
I think I wish I would probably say it's hard for me to do it with empathy because I play the drums, right? But maybe I could do it as a worship leader when I'm leading worship. I'm thinking like drums it's not an easy instrument you're using all your limbs. You're in a room. Usually someone's mad about what you're playing.
Wow.
And it's too loud. It's not enough. You're too busy. The cymbals are loud. The audio engineer's not Matt, but audio engineers oftentimes will come up, hey, it's a little loud. Can you soften up? And that takes a lot out of no one else on stage has to play softer than they would anywhere else.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. No one's ever come to Brenton and said, your acoustic's really loud. Maybe Jude. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I do. I think it's just it's hard to really understand how much you really have to reserve, especially in a church setting. You don't want to. You really have to have a lot of control. So it takes a lot of thought. And then I would say for me as a drummer, I don't love totally mimicking someone else's playing. The artist in me struggles to just go play what I heard exactly on the album. I like to get close. So I love the leeway, I guess, from a worship leader. As a drummer, I love the leeway to embellish, to not overplay or change the structure of the song, but to do that thing like I would do it, because I have a personality as a musician too. But I think that comes with experience and, age of playing and over time.
That's helpful. Yes, there's a question. Can you spin your sticks?
I have never been able to do that successfully. It's just not a skill that I learned, and I really have stick envy. When I see drummers doing it, or the drummers that can throw them up in the middle of the song and just keep playing like it's nothing. No way.
Why can't you be more like the other kids?
Yeah. I want to be like them.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There's one back there. You in the hat? What's your favorite drummer? I have a few favorite drummers. I'll give you the biggest influences on me. One guy named Jeff Porcaro, who's passed away, sadly. The other guy's name is Carlos Vega, also passed away. Those two guys played on a lot of the music that I listened to growing up. And so their style was very influential to me. Phil Collins was another one, and Manu Katché and Omar Hakim, probably the main group of guys that I just really studied them and emulated. When you get started on any instrument, you're mimicking what you're hearing. That's how we all learn. That's how we learn to walk. It's how we learn to talk. It's the same with music. And so I'm really grateful for those drummers.
Yeah, I had a question about drum shields. I noticed that you guys use circular ones, an actual uncomfortable shield.
Yeah, these were here, but I love these. I always prefer these. I wish these were around more often than the full cages, especially the ones where you're in a room. I might as well be outside. Those I really don't like. I'd rather just play soft, but be able to have the presence of other people with me. But these, I love them because they're really blocking the top end. Sort of the main volume of a kit's going to sort of go up and out. This room is high enough ceiling in a big enough room where these are doing a great job of sort of containing cymbals in the top end of my snare, the top end of the frequency of the snare. So you guys aren't getting just the full force of a drum kit. And they look a lot better than the full shields with those big seams, and they're all big, and it can sort of be an eyesore on a stage, especially when drums are center stage like this. So I much prefer these. You're going to see these a lot more. If you're paying attention, you'll see them even in huge tours, in stadiums and arenas, just because they help contain the frequencies out of mics and other band members on stage. So I prefer these. I was like, yes, Lord, when they came out.
It's tough being a drummer, man. Can you say that again, just a little softer?
Don't do it.
Sorry. Okay. Can I ask, maybe unless you've got something else you'd
No, I
like
was
to
going
add.
to give it to.
Oh, I was going to say, maybe you guys can demonstrate. Daniel, you referenced how important and how connected the bass and the drums are. Maybe you can reference a rhythm section playing together poorly and then playing together well. Where's that microphone? Yeah, let's. Maybe Daniel might need it. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's a song that Brenton wrote called Your Love is Amazing, Hallelujah. Your love reigns over me, Lion and the Witchcraft. I mean, I'm just kidding.
He's a bass player. Got to give them leeway. Yeah. Let him roam.
So the groove, which is actually the kick drum, can you feel that? That's the center. Goes. Your love isn't changing. That song? Anyone know that song? So I'm playing the groove with him. Can you see that? I'm going. And that's creating the rhythm section, which makes it feel really cool. But if I play, so 1. That's terrible, right? But if you play that groove with me, it's not the same groove of the song, but it's at least they're locking up together and it sounds right because we're actually playing on the same spots. And so most songs, if you're thinking about it as a drummer, you got to think, what pattern am I going to predominantly play for the song? And some songs change in the verse to the chorus, but they always go back to the same groove for the verse usually, and then the chorus kicks in and it's a different groove again, right? And so thinking about that, the drummer has to be kind of disciplined to be able to keep the same groove going on the kick drum. Why don't you just change up the kick up a bunch of times, and I'll keep the groove the same, and let's hear that. Same song. Okay, so I'm like, how do I find that guy? Because he's just changing the whole time. And so if you're trying to lock up with a kick, if the drummer's not thinking about you, and he's just thinking about whatever he wants to play, he can do whatever he wants, but then it's impossible to create a rhythm section, which is you and the drummer and the bass player, right? So trying to keep the groove together is going to make the band feel right. And so for you worship leaders, you might notice that something sounds off and you don't know what it is. You can always ask, hey, are you guys playing, what kind of groove are you guys playing on the kick and the bass? Are you guys locking up together? And it's not always exactly that, because some songs are not just the kick and the bass. So, for example, you know the Coldplay Clocks groove? You know, that kind of groove is like a Coldplay kind of groove. Now, if you look at the kick drum, he's just going da 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 da. He's not playing on the one. So I don't want to play the groove like this. 2, 3. Yeah, then it's weird. So I'm actually going to rather think about the drums as a whole and say, what groove is the drums creating? And I'll play. Instead of... Because if I just play with the kick drums playing, that's what I would play, but that's not right for the song. I'm trying to create the groove of the whole drums. So just think about the drums, not only the kick drum, but what is the drums as a whole creating rhythm-wise, and how do I best work with that?
You said something interesting there. That's not right for the song.
Yeah.
That's important to you?
Absolutely. So, the most important thing is thinking, what does the song need for me to actually add to it for it to work really great? And one of the things we often talk about is dynamics, and most people don't think about that a lot. You think about what's the notes that I have to play today for the song, instead of thinking, how do we create a really interesting landscape for the song so it actually starts off small and grows into something big and then drops away small and then gets bigger again. And you can do that in different ways, and often we'll do that as a band. And I don't know if you want to do that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, let's try it. Sometimes this is a nice exercise. If you're just playing with like 5 strangers and you're like, okay, we got to lead worship in the next 20 minutes. How do we connect? I did different things. Like the last live recording we did, nobody liked this. But at the end, they were okay with it. But we did like a minute of non-verbal checking in. So you had to check in with everybody in the band, but you're not allowed to speak. You have to go, all right, how are you? Sometimes like, ooh, that's scary. You seem to be going through some deep stuff, Kelly. That's what that's what I got from the non-verbal check-in. But that's what playing music together is. A lot of the time, I'm not going, how's that feeling for you, Aaron? Like it's all just like, pretty good. So just checking in. Does that make sense? You guys are looking at me like, Brenton Brown, you are out of your mind. but I think it's like checking in, communicating is a big part of music. But another way to do it is to do dynamics. So I'll set a little task. Let's do it in the key of A because it's the happiest of all the keys. And we'll play exactly the same thing the whole way through, but what we'll change is the intensity of the attack. So we'll just get louder and softer together.
Same exact part, though.
Same exact part. You're not allowed to change parts. So I'm going to go A, D, F sharp minor, D. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like when you're playing on your own, the lady with the piano, that's what keeps people engaged in a song, whether they're thinking, oh, nice dynamics, or not. It's the communication of music. It makes me feel good. Does it make you feel good? Yeah, especially with these guys. These guys are like driving a Ferrari. I bet all of us should be able to come up here, stand behind this mic, and play.
That's to answer that question, what's important for the song. So a lot of the songs that we, especially when we teach them on worship artistry and I listen to the parts that I've got to play, a lot of songs that are produced, the bass player doesn't come in until like the second chorus, the second chorus, or right, after the second verse or after the turnaround, or the pianist does the whole song almost way to the end, and then we come in, the band comes in right at the end. So it's very hard for people that are on the stage to feel like they're just standing there for half the song. They think everyone's looking at me wondering why I'm holding this thing if I'm not going to play it. But honestly, nobody's really looking at you. For starters, you can just relax. They're usually looking at the person that's going, the singer, or whatever else is going on up there. So you got to be able to relax and say, what does the song require from me right now for it to be awesome? And so for it to be awesome, when you do eventually walk in, it's like, here comes the bride through the back door. Whoa, that's amazing, because the bass just came in and it's like perfect, right? Because the song's built to a point where the tension is there, that when you do come in, it's just so right. It's built up this opportunity for dynamics to grow to where it suddenly feels like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Or the drums come in and then you drop out again and you come back in. So just thinking about dynamics, what is important for you to play and what is important for you not to play. So, yeah.
Very good. I'd like to do that. It looks like CJ has a question or a point.
I just got to borrow this again. Maybe. So when we were doing when these guys were doing the drum and bass thing, where they were doing that groove that was dun, 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 and getting a little more intentional about it. Something that I had to learn, mostly for my front of house guys, is like the keyboard can put out a lot of gas. And if I give them a certain volume, I want to stay as close to that volume as possible, even on big parts. And Matt can probably tell you if I do that or not. But I try to, right? So even if I'm accenting like that, because I try to pick up on stuff like that, because it really glues things together, just like these two. If the guitar player and the keyboard player are also doing that, it's a powerful thing. And that's when, you guys have probably experienced this with your band. When you're all playing together, no matter what it is, it feels great. Just be cognizant that the difference between normal playing and now we're really going is not that much. It's like this much. Because they can bring things up. But if you're pounding the heck out of your keyboard, like where you can hear the plastic weight hitting the metal chassis of the keyboard, that's probably too much. So just something to keep in mind. Or on the guitar, if you're sawing a hole in a guitar, maybe you're trying to get your band back because they're straying or something. But that's just something to keep in mind. The difference between normal and loud does not necessarily have to be 99% of what you can do.
That's good.
He called out some notes to you. Were you playing those exact notes?
I was playing those chords, but I was playing some passing tones just for color in there.
So you played the chords.
Yes.
Yeah, are you able to, I'm sure you are, because they were simple. Can you play what you just played? I haven't forgotten.
Here I am with one hand.
Dessert.
So we were talking about this, and I didn't want to go into this part. I'm not going to go far, but for you piano players out there who understand the scale degrees and numbers, we're playing A. So I start with an A, and then I put fives around it, and then I put an A in the bass. Frankly, I don't move my right hand again unless I have to. Now, if we play a D, I play the same chord. F sharp, same chord. Back to A, D. I never even move. So in context, it sounds like. So I'm only moving my left hand, but not as low as he's playing.
Is that new? Is that helpful?
We can talk more too afterward if you want. I can give you some more insight there.
Thank you, CJ.
So if you're a keyboard player and you're leading in a small group situation, right? And you're playing the keys and you're playing together with your hands right here close to middle C, and your chord is there and your bass is there. It's kind of like really small. And as you open up your hands and start playing down here and opening up over here, it gets bigger because you're playing across the dynamic range. You're opening up the low end and the high end of the spectrum. We do that as a band. And so we all start playing like in the middle. And then so if I'm starting up here, that's what we were playing earlier. And then I go down to down there. Then I'm moving way down in the scale and I'm moving down low. And Bobby might start in the same range as like a normal A.
Let's do it.
And then you can move up to the up on the top end, which is the same as a keyboard player spreading out their hands. That's what creates this big sound that a band creates. And you come back to the middle a little bit. And same with the keys, right? So let's try that.
So we'll play the same chords. On the last exercise, we just changed the attack, how hard we hit our instrument, struck the instrument. Now we can change parts, but we're playing the same chords. So we worked our way through the gears. So I want to get to Bob. I'm just curious, Dan, where were you at your softest and where were you at your loudest? I know you mentioned it.
So playing whole notes, which I was playing in the beginning, which is playing like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's high up in the register, right? And then I went to the lower register, which is like a keyboard player moving down lower, and then eventually, and then I'm playing with a pick here, by the way, and then I started playing. Now what I've done is I'm playing like 8 notes, and I've opened up the subdivision too, so I'm making more. And if you wanted to, you could be like, that's like really making more and more subdivision. And often, if you look at bass, kind of what happens on bass, usually they start with whole notes, eventually moving to creating more subdivision. That doesn't mean I always have to be the one doing that. Sometimes the guitar will be going. So then I don't want to do that all. If we all do that together, let's all do that together quickly for fun.
16th
We'll all just
notes?
play 16ths. You go 1, 2, 4. It's actually beautiful.
I could dig.
It's quite nice for dynamics if you were doing like a build into a section, because then we'd create a massive release at the end where we all just go back to, you know, it could be really cool. But if the whole song was like that, you would not love us.
You would hate us. All right, Aaron, where'd you start on that?
Give me the stand so I can.
Hello? Repeat the question.
The question, what was your like low point? What was your high point on that?
Well, it's actually a great question because I had a little miscommunication happen. So I actually started much louder than I should have. I don't know if anybody caught that, but I came in with guns blazing because I thought we were all going to be full. But in reality, I looked around. I was like, okay, well.
We didn't do the eye check. I didn't do the eye check with Aaron. I just started in.
So what we had to do is we sort of all like had to adjust to what I was doing. And I sort of brought myself back down a little bit and apologized with my eyes. And then and then we had somewhere to go, right? So my loudest was probably on that. I was probably playing 75% of what I might really play, like especially like in a live environment where we were really humming.
Yeah.
So.
All right. More questions of that, Taryn, but I want to get to Bob. Bob may be the most qualified person to answer these questions. He's been nominated for 9 Emmy Awards. He's won 2 Emmy Awards. He's a producer. He's produced a bunch of vineyard records, a bunch of solo records, a bunch of rock and roll records, and he's a beast on his machine. And he's probably the humblest guy on the stage. Yeah, he's got a ginormous train set, Daniel said. Yeah. So, Bob, where do you want to start? You want to start with that last thing?
Sure, man. Yeah. Yeah, so I started, I did a couple things. I started kind of with a mellower tone, like a front pickup for you guitar players. Mellower tone, pulled my volume back, so it's a little more of a belly sound. So yeah, kind of just stayed in there for the first few cycles. Then it just seemed like the right thing to do was to play something up top a little bit. So I brought up I do this a lot where I'll set like a distorted sound, and then I'll just roll the volume back a little bit. So I don't have to be stepping on a lot of stuff, you know? So anyway, so I went from the kind of the middle neck position here, up here. From there, did that a couple cycles. And then when we started kind of really starting to dig in, I pulled up my volume a little bit more, went to a back pickup for more cutting sound. And once again, I'm using a lot of the same common tones. I'm just going up octaves, you know, and turning up the gain. And then this happens to me quite a bit. Like, so we were cycling for so long, I'm thinking I'm using up all my juice up here, right? So then a lot of times contrast is what can really create drama or, yeah. So I figure, well, I'm running out of notes up here, you know?
Yeah.
So I just went down. And then by then, I think we were at full tilt. So, you know, and I've actually talked to a lot of church guitar players, worship guitar players lately about this. When I was coming up, it seemed like the thing to do was to tell guitar players to, you know, chill out a little bit. Yeah. But I've noticed a lot of young guitarists growing up in the church, they almost need to be told, like, you can rock out when it's time to rock out. That's part of your job, you know? So, yeah, so the next thing was to kick on a little more gain and... and just create some tension, some flurry, some frenetic energy, you know? So yeah, that was kind of the journey. And then coming back down, it was kind of roll back the volume a little bit, the tone.
It's magic. It's amazing. Isn't it amazing? It's so beautiful. Yes, there's a question, urgent. YouTube videos that he can send to his guitar.
There are a few out there, yeah. Yeah, if you Google my name, yeah. There's a few embarrassing ones too, but...
Bobby Hartree.
Bobby Hartree. Yeah. Afterwards, if you want to talk, yeah. I actually there's some instructional stuff out there too.
No
somewhere.
way,
Yeah.
such a dark horse.
Anyways, some of it's pretty old. Might be... Yeah, all right.
Amazing. Tell me one thing. Okay, there's a question. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how long in my influences? I've been playing a long time, longer than I started when I was 11.
He's got Swedish genes.
I'll come clean. I'm 55, so you do the math.
He looks like a child.
Influences. Well, there's a lot of them. My biggest influence, who I was lucky to meet when I was 16, who played with his favorite drummers, was this guy, Michael Landau. A big session guitar player in LA, played on everything from Michael Jackson to Pink Floyd to B.B. King to Faith Hill I could go on and on. I met him when I was 16, and he kind of took me under his wing. And what was great about him was he was a big session guitar player, so he had to play a lot of different styles, and he was hired to play the right thing at the right time, you know, which was very helpful for a 16-year-old guy who just wanted to rock out, you know. So that was helpful. The Edge, Daniel Lanois. Gosh, there's so many. Those are probably maybe the three big ones. Yeah. Phil Keaggy, actually, does that name ring a bell? Yeah. He actually, I shouldn't forget Phil Keaggy. He's the reason I started playing guitar when I was 11.
Wow.
I saw him play, and it completely blew my mind, and I just had to start playing. Yeah.
No ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know in terms of frequencies and sounds, keyboards and electric guitars can step on each other's toes a lot. So
Sure.
like deliberating who's going to do what, how do you guys plan that out?
Well, we don't. I mean, at times it's good to do that. I will say, though, on that one example where we were cycling those chords, when I kind of went up a little bit, yeah, CJ did too, and, you know, we kind of nodded at each other, and I think he adjusted to accommodate me, to be honest, you know. But yeah, it's about listening, right, you know? And I will say there's something about, I think, I'll speak for guitar players, I don't know, but maybe about keyboard players too. I think we tend when we're younger, we need people to tell us to listen more than, I think drummers and bass players by nature listen to the band better than we do. And I think it's because they're more team players, you know? Their instruments are like, they're foundational, right? Where I spent a lot of time in my room like working up my stuff and I was ready to play my stuff, you know? So I was more focused on what I was gonna do, you know, or the tones or whatever, you know? So a lot of it's just trying to be aware, you know?
I always wanted to play lead guitar, but I never learned. So I defer to the lead guitar player often. When I'm playing with a guitar player who isn't necessarily competent, sometimes I'll play some lead that they should be playing when they're not. But generally, as far as like just finding that sonic space, you know, if they go up, I'm coming down, and vice versa.
It's good.
Yeah, you know, another thing too, you know, in a lot of these kind of worship songs, the guitar player will, you know, I'll use a lot of effects. So you only have to play like 2 or 3 notes at a time when you do that, you know? Because if you play, you know, if you're doing, if I've got a lot of delay and verb on my sound and I'm, you know, it's just creating I'm taking up all the space. But, you know, a couple notes. Sorry about that. But yeah, a lot of it's just a couple notes so I can leave space for the keyboard player. Was there a question over here? Yeah.
Yeah, so the electric guitar player I serve with, super talented guy, but his big thing, he's an older gentleman, he's like really big into like hair metal.
Okay, sure. Right.
That's his style. And so the way I run the worship team is more so bring something to the table. So I'm not asking them to do like, you have to do the exact beat or you have to do this. I want you to listen to the song, get the feel for it, and then bring me something. But what he brings me is often just like too much.
It's too much, right?
And so just learning how to communicate with him while still giving him the freedom to like do what he does. But it's also like, I don't need to squeal in the middle of like a hymn.
I mean, one thing that I think would be super helpful is, like, if he's going to do a solo on a section, ask him if the first half of the solo he could play the melody or some version of the melody of the song. And then maybe there's 8 bars where he takes off, he soars, you know? So it's not just out of the gate, you know, he's just shredding, you know? Because you can't go wrong with that, the melody, you know? That'd be the first thing I would suggest. Because that way you're not like, you're bringing something constructive to the table for him to grab onto instead of like, don't play so much, you know? It's kind of saying the same thing, but in a more constructive way, I think.
Real talk. How are you guys? You still alive? There's a question. All right.
This is just kind of like an overall question. Can you talk about the use of space or even sometimes not playing your instrument and creating those rises and falls? I think sometimes worship bands feel like everyone has to play all the time so everyone feels included. But there's times when dynamically, or everything else, there's times that ebb and flow and use space and everything. And I haven't thought consciously about that, but I see some nodding like, yeah, done that.
I mean, all right, Bob's got the mic. Yeah.
He's got some mic. Okay, cool. That's an awesome question. And I think what I think's happened over the last several years is the introduction of like Ableton and tracks has given us sort of this need to sort of fill all the space. And there's nothing wrong with tracks. I mean, I have Ableton right here. So we're not using a ton of tracks, but it's got our click in there, and sometimes there's a cue or two. So I think in moderation, it's a wonderful thing. But what I think happens sometimes is there's this click and the multi-tracks lady, chorus, ready, go. And you just, I got to play something because it's so intense in your ears, right?
It's so good.
And so like I love multi-tracks and all that it provides. I think it's helped us do some amazing things. I think we just have to know, like, we still have to know dynamics. We still have to know that, like, sometimes Brenton just needs to sing the song and I need to put my sticks down and I need to close my eyes. I'm worshiping too, right? It's not only when I'm playing am I worshiping. I'm helping facilitate an environment where people can connect with the Lord through these songs. So sometimes that's going to mean I don't even need to be sitting here, right? I can be over here kneeling. And I think that's just part of living in the moment. And so, like, these rigid sort of Ableton Live sets that we create make this freight train that we feel like we can't slow down. And I think there's a place for it, and I think there's other times where silence and not playing and letting people sing and letting our ears rest and just hear what's going on, or a worship leader and a guitar, is the most powerful thing that can happen, right? And so I think that's part of experience. Part of listening to each other. It's part of listening to the Spirit, because we're dependent on Him. I mean, this is not a show after all, right? And so that'd be my kind of main comment about space. It's just sometimes Bobby, I've seen him a lot of times, he just turns his guitar off. He's not playing the whole time. Watch him, you know? So I think that's a really good question, and I hope that begins to permeate into our churches a lot more as musicians and singers begin to go, hey, that was actually really beautiful. I actually heard people. For the first time, I took an ear out and I listened to them. I heard them sing.
Chorus now, go.
Bridge, go.
Just this last Sunday, I was playing at church, and we were using some tracks, and we were coming up on like the second chorus, and the lady is going, chorus. And the worship leader, we have Mike for the band, is like, ignore the lady, ignore the lady. And it was very confusing for a second there. I'm like,
It's crazy that this is the reality. I mean, no one would have thought 20 years ago, man, church is going to sound like this if you're in a worship band. Yes, Stephen. Everyone hear that? How do you transition between songs?
I feel that there's nothing bad about actually practicing transitions. So sometimes at the end of rehearsal, it's best to say, let's do the end of the song into the next song, and that's all we practice, and then we go to the end of that one. Because if you just practice each song, it takes so long to go through all the songs. Sometimes we'll just do the top of the song, you know, or the tail end of the other song into the new one, tail of the other song into the new one, and you can do a lot more, right? And practicing what you're going to say as a worship leader, there's no shame in it. Even if you have 5 services on a Sunday, if you say the exact scripture between the same song, there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't have to be improvisation every time you speak.
It doesn't have to be jazz.
No, if the more set it is and the more confident that everybody feels up here, the better it's going to go. So if they know that you're going to say the same thing, you're going to say, you know, the same little prayer or the same encouraging word, if you practice those as a worship leader between the songs, there's no shame in actually knowing what you're going to say. It doesn't have to be inspired by God, what you're going to say in between the songs. It will be, but it doesn't have to be like in the moment. You have to think of something amazing to say. Rather plan that stuff out, plan your transitions. And then if you're going to change keys, sometimes a nice thing to do is if you're in a different key, the keyboard player can play the 5 chord of the new key and then drop into the 1 of that key. You know what I mean? And so they can change key, the keyboard player, while you're talking or giving a word or reading a scripture or something, can change keys and walk into the new key, and then the whole band's already in the right key. Like we did the other night when we did Lion and the Lamb, we started with like a little droning on the band and a little bit of like just doing like, you know, and everyone was like,
Stupid. So stupid. He got you right this love.
Anyway, but you get into the.
It's so stupid. Do that again.
Yeah, it's like play a little something. Right. Alex
Very
Acuna
niche
on the
skill.
name.
No one's gonna have a place for that in their band.
Hey, that was awesome. That's That's
Whatever.
an instrument. His neck is an instrument. Hey, just real practically, I think too, every song doesn't need a transition. So we love it when our ears aren't going, wow, that was such a weird feeling. I don't know music, but I know that was a weird key change. So anytime there's going to be like a strange key change, this is when a little bit of theory, knowing some numbers and some scales helps. If there's going to be a weird key change, that's a great spot to say, hey, welcome this morning. You know why we're here? You know, that's a great spot. And otherwise, if you can sort of plan your sets with keys that work well with one another, or the same key for two songs, then they just go, there is no transition. It's just from one to the next. And I love thinking about sets, not just in just the way they're, the keys are in or the speed and all that stuff. Those are all important. But what does a song say, right? Sometimes it needs to be a 5-song set of just pure ascription for who God is, right? Other times we need to be humble and we need to be confessing, right? So those moments and the type of set often will lead you in how you need to transition. Because if a set of music is very Christocentric, it's very resurrection focused, like Easter, where your transitions, anything you're going to want to say, you need to string that together and help people on that journey as a leader.
A little cheat sheet. I often make sure I know how to start a song by myself. It's tough if there's no instrument, but I'm like, man, if I don't know how to start sinking deep by myself, then we're not going to go anywhere unless I turn around and go, we're going to do sinking deep. Often it's in that. So I like just to, even if it's like, I don't have to spell everything out, but I just kind of get myself going. That takes a lot of pressure off me, because then I'm not thinking about, oh my gosh, there's this other song coming. I haven't told Dave he has to start it. Like, I just know how to get going. And if you have that for all your songs, you can just kind of chill a little bit, think about what you're going to say. All right, last question, I think. Yeah, you haven't asked one yet. Yes, sir.
So this has come up more over the years with click tracks and things like that. Like, how do you see balancing between having the click tracks and also leaving room for the Spirit to kind of lead, the direction that you go?
How do you balance having a click track and then also being able to follow the Holy Spirit if you feel like He's moving you somewhere? Yeah, maybe. As a leader, sometimes I will deliberately just come off click, like the band can hear, oh, he's not playing, he's not playing in tempo again. But hopefully it's like oh, this time it's on purpose. And then it's almost like I just step off the bus, or I just fake end a song. Like tonight, Paul's going to lead worship. He plays with us every now and then, but not all the time. He's going to transition songs, and he'll talk between them because he's so good at speaking. So he'll just and he'll just step off and go, hey, God, we love you, and maybe he'll talk to us as a room, and then he'll go into the song. Being able to have that, like my job as a worship leader, I feel is to turn however big the room is. I want to turn it into my living room. I want it to feel like everybody's welcome and comfortable, and we're just people in a room, rather than, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? So, and that's different for everybody. It might be playing really skillfully. It might be saying a few words. It might be reading a scripture. But all those little transitions give you a little bit of room to pivot if you have to move, Aaron, why don't you close us out?
Yeah, for the tracks thing, I think I heard you look, what's the balance there too? That's a great question, and I think it's worth asking. Does the song need tracks, or do we just need metronome? Do we just need click? Oftentimes, we're using cues and stuff like that because we maybe work with volunteers who don't know the songs, or we're just learning it. We're just getting our legs under us as a band. There's a lot of reasons, really good, valid reasons, because you don't want to fall apart. That's distracting, right? So the first question I love to ask is, does this song, do I not have something on stage that this song really needs that I could have in the tracks? Or is it so new that we really need to stay on a grid and we need these cues, right? Those are questions that you ask. But also, just in tandem with what Brenton is saying, we have to trust the Spirit of God to lead us as leaders and music directors and musicians. We have to. It's part of it's the requirement. We have to trust Him. And so I really like to approach set lists to go, that one could, yeah, let's rock that thing out. That's going to be fun. We're going to have fun, joy in the house of the Lord, right? This one, I think we can be a little more tender. I don't even need a click. We're all okay. We can keep a tempo, and if it fluctuates a little bit, we're going to be okay. It's something like that to not feel the pressure of living on a grid all the time. And I think that's something you learn, and it's something that you have to kind of trial and error. It's like, wow, we should have had a click on that one. Sorry, noted. And you move on and you try it again, because most of us have like multiple services to try. There's another one at 10:30. We'll see you there, right? So,
Don't come to the first service.
yeah, right. The run through.
I mean, there are a lot of questions. God bless you guys. So patient. Can I pray? Can I close in prayer? Jesus, we're only in this because we love you, and all of us love music one way or the other. And God, we ask, just as Aaron just said, more than anything, God, we desire to see your kingdom come. We desire to see your spirit move and change us, make us more like Jesus, change our communities, change our homes. And Lord, we ask that you would come and just nudge us in the direction that you'd like us to go. God, I ask that stuff that's useful would stay and stuff that's not useful would disappear. We love you, Jesus. We're so grateful we get to do this. Amen. Amen. All right.